and then Gloria, there's something you want to...
very quickly what he just said. In 1975, Jomo Kenyatta gave South Korea, Malaysia, $5,000. Because it's 5,000 or even 5 million. I think it's 5,000 as a grant, because we were richer than in Malaysia. Today is not the same. But I want to buttress this idea of leadership and why we don't react to our leaders. During an interview with the Daily Nation on 27th July 2021, this is what CS Macharia said. During construction, the old road was damaged as the contractor and to do the piling. But the contractor, upon completion, will restore the old road and leave it better than they found it. Everything is done under one budget. That is the Daily Nation, 27th July 2021. This is Macharia today. We are finalizing our contract of 9 billion to make sure we beautify the whole road. It makes sense to have the contractor who was doing the expressway rehabilitate the whole road. He was telling business in Delhi. Do you understand? Corruption-driven project. Now, I said I will have an advice for the incoming government on how to deal with these debts. Just call for evaluation of the debt, even if you have to move to the International Court of Justice, on two things. There is something in international law called the morality of debt. The debt is not supposed to benefit the borrower, the lender, more than the borrower. Now, since most of these debts are inflated in order to factor in corruption, if you go and they say, all I want is to pay the fair value of this project, nobody will argue with you about that. Okay? And I can tell you, there will be very many people willing to fund that evaluation. And then the end result will be that some project we have already paid them, so that now there can be money for the next government to operate. Otherwise, given the street jacket we are in right now, is going to be impossible.
For whichever new government or leadership.
Whichever new government comes, they're going to have a serious problem. The other route, which I think they can follow, there is something called regime and the sovereign debts. Most of Jubilee debts are actually regime debts. And if they are regime debts, then it should automatically die with the regime. Now, what makes a sovereign debt? The debt is submitted to parliament, to our elected representative. They confirm those contracts. They also appropriate the money. There's Njiara money, for example. The money moved from the Exim Bank in China to China Road and branches in China. The contract never went to that parliament, to our parliament, for evaluation and for authentication. Meaning that with some of these projects, we can just brand them either regime debt or we go to morality of debt and contest them. That way we will be able to offload most of the stolen money, because these fellows agreed to the way money was distributed. Is the contract is 15 billion, we earn another 15 billion, then that 15 billion is spent in China or paid in Dubai or South Africa.
But whatever the regime, Professor, I mean, it's whatever new regime comes in, this is a contract between the government of Kenya and whichever other government.
You can use the law to politely get the evaluation of this project.
Actually, Professor is venturing into a dangerous territory where Kenya will suffer huge reputational liabilities.
I didn't say deferred. I said you can move to international court of
re-evaluation.
Yeah.
But I mean, if in terms of being cuffed to the terms and conditions of that contract, we are already there. So whichever regime takes over, it's their responsibility.
If the contract is unconscionable, it can be challenged in a court of law. I'm not recommending anybody take a route where you refuse to pay. What I'm saying is you challenge it. A new government challenges it. Because on the face of it, you can see most of these contracts are unconscionable. They are not reasonable to the people of Kenya. So you can challenge them.
Speaking of regimes, we are in a transition period into new leadership. And the president, of course, has his preferred candidate in this particular race. How much, in terms of going back to 2018, the handshake, and now where we're going into the August elections, how much of that has affected, and I'm not speaking for the Deputy President, who has said numerous times before that they were on a good trajectory until the handshake happened. But realistically speaking, as analysts, political analysts and what have you, and I'll start with you, Gloria, how much did that stop the momentum or slow the momentum of actually growing into the full madaraka of Kenya? In terms of our
prior to the handshake, there was an objective, actually. We had the Big Four agenda prior to the handshake. Prior to the handshake, you can actually go and look at level of debt in this country. As a matter of fact, I would like to just list what I call the handshake projects against the amounts of monies that they took. Start with the Kisumu Port relaunch, 3 billion. Rehabilitation of the old Nakuru-Kisumu railway line, 3.8 billion. There's one here for 15 billion of the Kisumu brewery. 20 billion at the Muhoroni highway. Yeah? 25 billion at Miwani Kisumu highway. Then you have 3 billion on Ombei export processing zone. So to the billions. So you can see after the handshake, there was apparently a need for infrastructure. And as we have noted that this big project, these infrastructural projects, really it is just a way of fundraising for the people behind the scenes, a way of actually stealing money. So what I call the handshake projects, when you look at the billions that were being spent after the handshake, or what actually, you move from the Big Four agenda where we're talking about affordable housing, which was supposed to create jobs for the youth, where we're talking about access to healthcare. We were supposed to by now to have sorted out this issue of NHIF, where we were actually trying to fix the problems of this country. And then suddenly you have a handshake and you throw that away, and you are now focusing on infrastructural projects to the billions, where you have to borrow money. So for me, I would say, number one, there is a very, I wouldn't say that that handshake was for the good of the nation. There is this notion that we needed political stability in order for us to push the economic agenda of this country. But you have to go a step behind and ask yourself, why did we have political instability to begin with? Because of an individual who has mastered on how to get whatever he wants to get at any one point. And I would say it's very sad that we glorify certain things like the handshake, because what you're doing is you're setting precedents that now we are in an election year, and whoever is on the ballot, whoever finally makes it, I'm disappointed that Wajakoya was taken out, but whoever finally makes it as a candidate can wake up and say, I have 3,000 followers, and so because of my 3,000 followers, I am going to, cause a storm and cause some chaos every Monday and every Thursday, so that the government can come out with tear gas for 3 months, and then finally, because they will be tired of me, they will call me to the table, we will have a handshake, and then I'll be able to influence projects to the note of 25 billion. So I think when we're looking at these things holistically, and particularly this idea of having political stability so we can have economic stability, because even today as we are celebrating Madaraka Day, we're actually celebrating political stability, which in a sense pushed for the economic empowerment of this country. But when you look at the context of it, we were fighting an external party, we were fighting colonialists. So we did not, it was not a civil war. We were actually trying to get independence of our own land and be able to say, these are our resources, and now we are going to make something out of this country from our resources.